Whether you are Christian, Muslim, or believe in any other religion, we all believe in the paranormal. The only difference is the name that we give these entities. This is a true story that happened in Saudi Arabia. I will post the news link in the description in case you don't believe it. This story is about a girl named Zuhur who mysteriously disappeared. Or did she get kidnapped? Today we're diving into the weirdest story I found on the internet. Sit back, enjoy, and dare to sleep. It was a normal school day in 2009. Everyone was busy bringing their children to school in a mountainous place located in Saudi Arabia, El Baha. A young teenage girl was heading to school where they teach Quran lessons. With her was her 8-year-old little sister, who also went to the same school as her sister. They were walking on their road to school, located close to their home. The big sister was holding the little sister's hand while they were walking to school. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Until, out of nothing, the little sister yanked her hand loose and started to run in the other direction from where the school was located. She was running so fast that her big sister could not keep up with her. Without saying anything, without screaming or explaining what was going on, she kept on running. The speed at which she was running was impossible for an 8-year-old. The big sister went back home, crying and screaming, and she said to her parents that her little sister escaped her grasp and started to run out of nowhere. The mother got scared and instantly called her husband. When the father heard of the news, he called everyone he knew in the surrounding location to ask if they had seen her. They figured that she must not be far as she was only a little girl. Everyone in the village started to look for this girl called Zuhur in the mountainous area, looking in every possible place and yelling her name without any success. Questions started to pop up. Where did she go? Why did she flee from her sister? The sister was adamant that Zuhur had escaped and that she was not kidnapped or taken by anyone. Half a day passed and the family was still looking for her. As dawn started to set in, everything became dark, and this small village did not have a lot of lighting around. Devastated, the family returned home. At home, they asked the sister again about what happened. She said that her little sister was running at speed so fast that she could not keep up with her. Her parents did not believe her and told her that it is impossible for a child to run at such speeds. They figured that she got distracted and the little Zuhur disappeared out of her sight without knowing. They thought that she was trying to cover up for her own mistake. That same day, the father heard knocking on the door. He ran to the door and opened it, hoping that someone had found her. And there he saw Zuhur standing in front of the door. But her appearance was not normal. Her face was pale, and her clothes all muddy and dirty. They asked her, "Where were you? Why did you run?" To these questions, she only answered, "I don't know. I was not aware of what was happening. After a while, I found myself in the valley." When her father heard this, he went crazy, as even the older people cannot traverse the valley because it is full of dangerous roads and places. Zuhur said to her father that she could hear the voices of people searching for her. But when she looked around, she could not see anyone. She told her father that she did not know how she got back home. But the important thing was that she was unharmed and back at home. Her mother bathed and cleaned her and brought her to her room. The days after the incident, Zuhur's personality started to change. Her parents noticed that she was not eating and nor talking, except for when she was alone in her room. When she was alone, they heard her speak, laugh, and tell stories. Zuhur started to lose weight and became very thin. She would sit with her family, but without her being consciously there. It was as if her mind was in another place. She became hysterical and chose to sit in her room all the time. After the changes that happened, her parents got very scared that there might be something wrong with her. They went to all kinds of doctors, from psychologists to neurologists. After them stating that there is nothing wrong with her, they went on to take her to several priests of the village. They told her that there is a jinn inside of Zuhur. Not only must they leave their home, They must get away from the village, so that the entity could not possess her anymore. They left the area and went to another place away from their village. With the days passing, Zuhur started getting better. She was not 100% herself, but she slowly got better. Out of fear and paranoia, her father did not let her leave his sight. He refused to send her back to school or let her outside. As Zuhur started to get better, she yearned for her old life back, but her father did not agree with this. He would only let her leave once he saw that she was back to her normal self. As people in the village started noticing this, they went and talked with the father. They convinced him that this is not acceptable, as she is getting older and she needs a normal life. After all the pressure the father was receiving, he agreed to let her go back to school, but on one condition: that he himself brings her and picks her up from school every day, just to be sure she's fine. The next day, he was bringing Zuhur to school. He stepped out of his car and they proceeded to walk to the front door. As they were approaching the school, again, Zuhur pulled her hand free from her father's grasp and started to run opposite of the school. This time he saw it with his own eyes, the speed at which she was running, as the big sister told him in the beginning. He jumped in his car and started to follow her, but to no avail. He stated to the police that it was as if she was flying. Every time he got close, she got further away. It was as if she was not touching the ground at all. Her father said that he could vaguely see a ghost-like figure that was carrying her. She was running through streets and woods until she disappeared completely from his view. He was devastated. He blamed himself, as he was the one to let her go to school again. That same day, all the people from village started to look for Zuhur again. As the news spread, the people from the old village all came to help the family find Zuhur. This time the police started to look with the family. A whole day passed, and Zuhur didn't return. Weeks passed by. Months passed by, and Zuhur was not found, nor did she return. The search for her did not stop. Every day the people from the village kept on looking for her. Every single morning, the men from the village went to the mountains, looking and screaming her name in hope of finding her, with no avail. Her mother went to the mountains with the holy book and started to pray for her each day, hoping that she will return. Nothing helped. Until one day, her father got word that Zuhur was seen in an area called Tihama. This area was around 100 kilometers far from the village that they currently were living in. The father took a few members of his family with him and went to the place she was seen, just to be sure of the news he had heard. The person that called told them that there is an old lady living in an old house up the mountain. They knocked on her door, and the old lady proceeded to tell them everything she had seen. A while ago, I heard loud knocking on my door. I opened the door, and before me, I saw a little girl with a school outfit on. The outfit was torn up, and her hair was tousled. Her fingernails were very long. I asked the girl, "Who are you and what happened?" She did not respond to my questions. She told me that she was tired and that she was thirsty. I got caught off guard by this, so I didn't ask her any more questions. I went to get some water, and when I came back, she was gone. The next day I went to my neighbor and told her what happened. She told me that this must be Zuhur. It is exactly like the description of the girl that went missing a long time ago. The old lady told the father that he must go and search for her, as the child looked like she was dying. So this is what the father did. He took the family friends and the people in the village, and he went to look for her. They started to look for her in the woods and the mountains. While they looked for her, they could hear her crying loudly in the night. But every time they went to the sound, they would hear the sound coming from somewhere else. They could not get to the girl. The villagers became scared, as they did not know what was happening. The father went to the priests of the village. One priest told him that this jinn possesses her and tries to get her as far away as it can from her family. Another priest told him that his daughter was possessed by a married jinn, which is a powerful jinn. They are the leaders among the jinns. One day, out of thin air, Zuhur appeared in her parents' house again. When they saw her, her eyes were big. Her appearance was weird. It looked like she saw something out of this world. She was looking scary, Nobody knew how she survived 8 months in the mountains without food or water. She looked so scary that even her siblings did not dare get close to her. Only her parents approached her as they were happy that she was back. In the days to follow, her father invited priests from the area to come and pray for Zuhur. They did not let her out of the house, as it seemed like the jinn could only take her once she left her home. Little by little, Zuhur got better again. In the following time, she started to talk again and laugh and play with her siblings. When Zuhur approached the age of 14, she started to talk to her father about returning to school again. She was not happy, as everyone was getting educated, and she was sitting at home every day. Her father told her that this will be impossible, as he lost her once to the same mistake. She did not understand the things that her parents went through, because she did not remember a thing of what happened when she was gone for 8 months. This made her very sad, so she stopped talking to her family, and went back to sit in her room again, away from her family. She started to get depressed, so the people in the village started to talk with the father. It has been 5 years since the last incident. Surely Zuhur must be better now. They told him that it's impossible to keep her away from having a normal life. With all this pressure, her father again agreed. One of the following days, her father brought her to school again. They stepped out of the car. He held her hand tightly, as he was scared that she might escape again. With every step they took towards the school, the father got frightened more and more. When they reached the door, everything was normal. She greeted her father and went inside of the school. The father had a burden lifted from him. If nothing had happened this time, then nothing will happen anymore. Zuhur got better, the father thought. He left for home and waited until he could pick his daughter up. A few hours later, the school called the father and told him that Zuhur had disappeared from the school. They saw her leave the front door, and she started to run again with an unworldly speed. Even the guard at the school could not catch her. She came in the papers, and everyone in and outside of the village started to look for the missing girl. They were looking for a girl wearing a black robe and a backpack. The military even got involved and started to dispatch helicopters to search for Zuhur. In the following time, the sightings of Zuhur got more and more. A lot of people saw her, but when they tried to approach her, she disappeared. Even one person of the police stated that he was in the mountains looking for her. He heard a noise, and when he looked back, Zuhur was standing there close to his car. She asked the police officer if he had water for her as she was thirsty. When he tried to catch her, he heard her scream with an unworldly voice, "Get me water now." When he went to his car to get her the water, he looked at Zuhur, and he saw her run away at a speed unimaginable for a 14-year-old kid. The officer stated that she was running as if she was flying. The police officer got so scared when this happened that he lost consciousness. For the next 1 year and 8 months, the parents were scared to death, and each day they would get news from the surrounding areas hearing stories about the girl. One of the stories is about a few men sitting in a bar, and they sighted Zuhur standing outside in a black robe. They immediately knew this was her, as the story had reached a lot of attention. They tried to catch her, but again without luck. One day in the area called Al-Baha, there was a family who was holding a big dinner for their family and friends. As the dinner came to an end and most of the people left, they could hear crying coming from their barn where they had their livestock. When they went to check on this sound, they froze in fear as they saw the girl sitting there crying. Her robe was all torn, dirty, and unwashed. When they went to investigate, they found the number of her father in the backpack. They took Zuhur in, cleaned, and bathed her. This time, her father promised himself that he would never let Zuhur out of his sight again. It would not matter how many people would tell him otherwise, Zuhur would not leave. Again, the family did not let Zuhur out of their sight. They asked her questions, but she told them that she could not remember a thing about the time that she was missing. She could feel something feeding her, but she did not know what or who it was. Her father told her the stories that he heard from people, but she insisted on not remembering anything of these stories. The only thing she remembers is the family that found her in the barn. Again, little by little, she got better, until she became herself again. For the next 5 years, she became normal, until she turned 19. Her father was sleeping, but he could hear his daughter telling him goodbye and that she is leaving for Yemen, a land located underneath Saudi Arabia. He was thinking that he was asleep and that he was just dreaming. He woke up early in the morning and went to the mosque to pray. When he was returning home, he remembered the dream of Zuhur telling him that she is leaving. As he came close to the home, he could hear his wife screaming and crying. He instantly knew that he was not dreaming and that Zuhur had left. This time, she did not disappear for a while. One of the neighbors close to the village heard knocking on the door. When they opened it, they saw Zuhur, who asked for some water as she was very thirsty. But everyone in the vicinity already knew what was going on. So the man told her that he would give her some water if she would enter his home with him. Zuhur responded in a demonic voice, "I want water, and I will not come into your home." He knew that the person speaking to him was not Zuhur. It was the jinn possessing her. The man looked her in her eyes and stayed calm, because he knew as soon as he turned around that she would start to run away. He gave word to phone Zuhur's parents, which in turn notified the residents of the man's neighbors. Immediately, all the people in the neighborhood went outside and started to surround the place to make sure that this time she could not escape. When the entity noticed this, it started to run, but the people had already surrounded Zuhur. The men tried to catch her, but she started to attack them. They said that her power was not that of a 19-year-old woman. They caught her, and again they brought her back to her parents. The priest in the village told Zuhur's parents that the only way to get rid of the jinn is to marry her off. So one of the priests went to the father to ask permission to marry her, as no normal man would want to marry her. The father agreed, and the priest went on to marry her, never stopping to pray for her. Until this day, Zuhur has not disappeared anymore. She is living a normal life, leaving her home without anything happening to her. This story has actually happened in Saudi Arabia. It came in national news and has a lot of people backing the events. There are a ton of stories like this, with actual evidence to back it up. If you like this, let me know, and I will share some more horrifying stories with you. Subscribe and like for more.